Hi there, this is Lyndon with David Batsoffen, and I'm David Batsoffen. And I'm chatting today to Willem Dercksen, who's a biokineticist who has recently moved into London. We're doing a series of chats about his specialties, and today we are looking at office ergonomics. And specifically, I should imagine, firstly, hi Willem, how are you doing?
Hi David, I'm fine, thanks, and yourself?
Very well, thank you. I should imagine that in this time of lockdown, in these last 5 months, when people like myself, who were traveling travel writers, become non-traveling travel writers, and we are stuck in a chair, ergonomics in the office place becomes very important, and the type of chair that you're sitting on and how comfortable you are, and if it's properly set up or not, is very, very important.
Yes, definitely. So I think that's what this lockdown exposed in terms of what happened to everyone's bodies. With the lockdown, everyone moved back to their homes, started working from their dining room chairs, or those old hard wooden dining room chairs. You can do that for 2 weeks, a month maybe, you can bear with it. But now that I think a lot of companies that I've heard, they kind of closed off their office space and they all moved permanently back home. So they're all working from home. So you can't do that for a long-term solution. So I had a lot of people phoning in and asking me, please, can I help them with their office ergonomics, how to set up their office space and their desktops and laptops and all of that so that it's in the correct height for them. Just knowing that this is the new norm. They're going to have to work from home from now on. So yeah, it's a big need that people ask me about.
So talk me through what's necessary, because I should imagine that there are chairs out there that are classed as office chairs that you can buy for R5, and then there are ergonomically approved chairs that you can buy for R5,000. And somewhere in between, I suppose, is a happy medium. But if you're going to be sitting in a chair for 6 to 8 hours a day, what is it that you need to be looking for?
Yes. So the main thing is that, like you said, you need to try and find a happy medium. Like so many, like the R5 chairs or like your normal wooden dining room chair is unfortunately not going to cut it for the long run. So the best thing that I've noticed that I do is to try and work with what you have to start off with and then modify from there. So if you can get like any chair that's a bit more comfy, it has a bit more of a lumbar support there for the lower back, and a chair that might have some armrests just to release the tension in the shoulder and neck area. So that's a very important aspect in terms of the chair. And then a very, very important thing that you can do that almost costs nothing is to simply try and raise your screen monitor or your laptop just to about eye level, so that the neck isn't always bending down when you're working down there. You're always a bit more chin up, and then all these muscles down the neck is a bit more relaxed. So you can basically just grab some books and stack them up, place your laptop on there. If you have the means of getting like a Bluetooth keyboard, that's even better, because then you don't need to type up here with your laptop, for instance. So yeah, you can just have a Bluetooth connection going through, and then you can at least work down on your, say, like on your table. But otherwise, your main thing is a bit of lumbar support, a comfy chair that supports you on all angles, and then also just raising your monitor screen at eye height so that the head is up here, not all the way down there.
I think we're all guilty of that. When specifically, I've learned on Zoom chats to look up, because otherwise everybody would just be seeing the top of people's heads for the entire Zoom meeting. When it comes to the height of a chair, how do you judge that? Because I know my wife and I fight about this. She'll come into my study and lower my chair. I'll come back and then I'll raise it. I have got my laptop slightly raised and at an angle so that when I work, my wrists are flexed and they're not just straight. But what am I looking for height-wise from a chair?
Okay, yes. So again, it depends on what type of chair you have. So if you're going for the chair that you have at home, you don't want to, say, buy an expensive chair to go from. You have to work with what you've got. So you can then, the main thing that you need to look at is that when you're sitting, that your feet are roughly flat onto the floor, the ground area. And the knees shouldn't be touching the back of your chair so that it doesn't squeeze your knees there at the back. So there should be about a 3-finger gap between your knees and your chair. For instance, say if you have shorter legs, or you are someone that is a bit shorter and your feet isn't touching the floor when you're sitting squarely on your chair, you should definitely look at something to place between your feet and the floor. So you're just getting a bit of like a footstool, for instance, or even just like a telephone book or something like that. So the main thing that you're looking at.
What did you say? A telephone book? What is a telephone book, Willem?
Yes,
people still use them?
Yeah, like I don't even know where to find one, but anything that's nice and thick, that'll work. Yeah.
Because what I tend to do, and as you were talking, I'd taken my feet off my stool, I put them flat on the floor. Yes, I can deal with that. My knees are not touching, the back of my knees are not touching my chair. But now as we're talking, my feet have automatically found their way back onto the pedestal of the chair, and my knees are hard up against the base of the chair. And I keep having to remind myself that I mustn't do that, because when you stand up and your legs have gone to sleep, you get in falling face first. You know, and just the other day we were talking about elderly people falling and having to come to you. So they get out of a chair incorrectly, they're going to have to come to you, or I'm going to have to come to you.
Yes, no, for sure. That's the thing. Like if you cut off that blood flow from the knees down, there's quite a big problem with the pins and needles. Also getting more other medical conditions down in the legs and the feet. So that's why it's so important to look at. It's a rough. Everyone is different, but you're kind of looking for a theory that has a 90, 90, 90 angle. So from your feet to your ankle, it's a 90-degree angle. From your knees or from the leg going up to the knees, that's another 90 degrees. And then roughly at the hips, also again, another 90 degrees. So that's your basics to look at. You can go into much more depth in terms of where the back should be angled at 100 degrees, but that you can play around with if you have a more office ergonomical chair that you can actually recline and move around like that. The seats can also move forward and backwards. So if you have like a more ergonomical chair, you can definitely play around with those angles that suits you perfectly for each individual.
Now, if people are worried about the chairs that they've got, are there any warning signs that they should be looking out for as far as back problems, neck problems go?
Yes, I think a chair that doesn't allow any movement or adjustability, or that you can adjust according to your physical needs, might be a bit of a problem for the long run. You can always place like a thin pillow or a cushion underneath you or at the back to support you there a little bit, so you can almost create your own modifications. But the best thing would be, if you know that you're in here for the long run at home, is to try and get at least an entry-level adjustable chair so that you can adjust all those needs for yourself. I wouldn't say that there's a specific red flag chair, but like I said, anything that is very 90-degree rigid, it can't move at all, isn't always the best.
Yeah, that's the one that you look out for.
Exactly.
And is there a sort of length of time that you recommend? I know on the sort of Fitbit that I wear, I don't know what the length of time is, but every now and again it'll go beep, and then there's a little guy sort of doing exercises that you've got to get up and move around. And all I tend to do, specifically if I'm busy working, is I just do that, and then the man stops. But is there a time limit to how long you should be sitting?
So I would say, I know there's a lot of guidelines out there, but I would say realistic, because I know a lot of people are working very hard. They don't always have the time to get up every 15 minutes to walk around the office space. So I would start off with every hour, try and just get up and then move along just to the kitchen and back, or up your stairs if you do have some, or just around the house or so. Every hour would be plenty. I think ideally it would actually be like almost every 40 minutes. But I know life happens and you're always like super focused. You don't have time to go stand up when you're busy with a deadline. So yeah, I think best case scenario every hour.
Okay, so in a nutshell, what should people be looking out for when they go and buy office equipment, specifically from a chair and maybe even from a desk point of view? Are some desks better than others? I mean, I should imagine there's some that have those built-in flaps that you can raise and lower so that your computer is already raised. I know IBM back in the day, they used to make all their office workers stand and work on computers. Nobody sat in that main office.
Yes, definitely. Desks do play a big role because I find that that is actually the best thing to look out for before you start with your office ergonomics setup. Usually because the desk is your main fixture of the whole setup, so you can't really adjust that too much. Then the second thing is people like to go to a chair so that they can modify that as much as they can.
Right.
But if you can get the optimal desk, that'll help you so much more. So I know like a lot of desks do have like those little containers next to the side, and then you're almost sitting all the way onto the one side of the desk, kind of tilting over here. So you don't want that. Also, you want to be smack bang in the middle of your desk so that you can optimally place everything around you, like your keyboard, your mouse, monitor here, monitor there, so that your body barely needs to move really. It's actually just your eyes that are doing all the most of the work and a little bit of neck work. In terms of standing desk, I know it's getting very popular, but there's also quite a few guidelines that goes with that you just need to be careful of. If you have a desk that's easily raisable, that you can adjust according to your height, that's nice and all. But you also have to, like anything else, you have to get fit in terms of standing and working. So my opinion and my guidelines would be is to work basically like an hour, raise your desk to that new level, work for 15 minutes and bring it back down again. Every hour you can raise it up, work for 15 minutes and then come down. Almost like every second week or 2-week time frame, then you can lengthen your standing time with 15 minutes.
Okay.
Because I can promise you, if you're going to try and stand for an hour and work, your back is going to break, your feet are going to hurt, your neck, you have to get fit in terms of the standing working abilities.
Then you're going to need one of those body frames where it's a solid upright beam with metal straps that you can hook yourself into, Velcro over that, so that your entire body is and then that is bolted into the floor. So you can't fall over, and then you can just drag the desk towards you and you are totally supported from your neck. Oh, and then you can wear a collar just to make things interesting.
Yes, but yeah, at least before you get there, try and work yourself up to a more fitter level.
And then from an exercise point of view, if people are in a situation already, Willem, where they've been working off the proverbial dining room chair, what sort of exercises would you give them, or what sort of rehab would you give them?
Yes, if I understand it correctly, so the things that you can do, say if you don't want to walk around or you just want to have a quick break and you just want to move the body a bit, definitely start off with your feet, because that's the part that doesn't move a lot and all the blood flow goes there and it almost stagnates all the blood there in your calves and your ankles. So just doing like normal toe taps where you just lift up your toes and then just the opposite, lifting up your heels while seated, that definitely just helps to just pump all the blood and the fluids back up into your legs. Obviously, a nice thing to do is just to literally stand up or from your chair, walk around a bit. Otherwise, you can stand next to your chair and then just lift your legs out to the side and back, other leg as well. And then just do some nice stretches, especially for the front part. I know a lot of people tend to want to do these type of stretches, but you're still closing up in the front. You just want to do the exact opposite. And you just want to open up the chest area, lengthen up that area. Otherwise, you still keep in that rounded position. So you just want to do that exact opposite. And those are the type of movements that you can do.
And at the end of the day, if you're uncertain, then you phone 076 870 8031. You speak to Willem, you set up an appointment, you go to see him, and let him give you a set of exercises that you can get up and move around and do those to keep you or to keep body parts at optimum working capability.
Excellent. Yes. Thank you, David. That'll be the best. At least then I can be more specific to the person's individual needs.
That's exactly it. I've been talking to Willem Dercksen, who is a biokineticist here in Linden, and that telephone number once again, 076 870 8031. Let me repeat that, 076 870 8031. Willem, thanks very much for chatting to me once again.
Perfect. Thank you, David.